Hi, everyone. Today is Saturday, August 23rd, 2025. Welcome. I'm Jeffrey Morgan, and this is a talk I host twice a week to discuss my experiences on the path of soul transcendence. This offering is brought to you by the movement of spiritual inner awareness with the encouragement and support of my friend John Morton, who holds the mystical traveler consciousness, which is the spiritual consciousness that does the work that we're doing here today. If you're new to the call, the format is simple. We're going to start by calling ourselves forward into the light, which is calling our awareness forward into the light of God that's already present. And then we're going to chant three Anai hues. Hue is an ancient name for God, and Anai invokes a quality of empathy and compassion. Then I'm going to play a video clip from my teacher, John Roger, and then I'm going to do a reading from Rumi, and then we can talk about whatever you would like. So with that, I'll start by calling us forward into the light, and then we can chant some Anai Hugh together. So if everybody'd like to close your eyelids and take in a deep breath. Father, Mother God, we call ourselves forward once again into your love, light, and sound. And if, as we reach up into our higher form, we ask to be filled, surrounded, and protected by the light of the Holy Spirit and the light of the Christ, so that only that which is for the highest good will take place here. We open ourselves to receive at this time of the blessing and the healing and the clearing of spirit. And we ask that any karma or negativity that can be lifted be taken into the highest realms of light and dispersed into the nothingness from which it came. We do this gathering in the presence and under the guidance and direction of the mystical traveler and Christ consciousnesses. And we ask these consciousnesses to remove any doubts, fears, or any negativity that would stand in the way of what's been prepared for us. And we do ask all of this for the highest good. At this time, Lord, we gratefully allow the greatest loving available to shine forth from within us. That loving that pervades every molecule of this creation. That loving that breathes us. We allow this loving to pour forth into our body, into every cell, into the air that we're breathing, and into the room that surrounds us, into the cities, into the lands that we occupy, into all the people we have ever met or will meet. We allow this love to pervade all creation. We join the choir and sing together, chanting the names of God. And we are always grateful to come before you in service and loving and devotion. And thank you, Lord, for all the blessings that you continuously bestow upon us. For we know above all that your will is done. And for this we give our thanks. And so it is.
See, we will take life, the gift of experience of having individual growth through individual experience to expand conscious awareness in ourself to such a rate that we can expand into the omnipotent, omniscient, divine and flow into that and drop the personality of separation, which is the veil between us and the spirit, is our personality, called who we think we are about ourselves and who we think we are about you, not who we all are together. And we enter into the divine and become one with the co-creator. The individual plan is under the plan of Lucifer, and the plan of oneness is under God. And it has equal power here. And we have equal ability to choose. And if we choose too much individuality, and we find ourselves home alone in front of the TV with a lot of time with nobody around, or if we find ourselves with a group and we're still lonely because nobody really cares and appreciates us, we have an option there for this future vision. To focus in what would we need right now that would fulfill this beingness here and make it rapture. And we say, someone to share with in an open, loving way who would have understanding and compassion for me. And then the question comes up, would you give them the same thing?
Okay. This is from Rumi. Praise to the emptiness that blanks out existence. Existence. This place made from our love for that emptiness. Yet somehow comes emptiness. This existence goes. Praise to that happening over and over. For years I pulled my own existence out of emptiness. Then one swoop, one swing of the arm, that work is over. Free of who I was, free of presence, free of dangerous fear, hope, free of mountainous wanting. The here and now mountain is a tiny piece of a piece of straw blown off into emptiness. These words I'm saying so much begin to lose meaning. Existence, emptiness, mountain, straw. Words and what they tried to say swept out the window, down the slant of the roof. Okay, all right. Aaron,
Hi, Jeffrey.
hi.
Can you talk about the relationship between spiritual exercises and doing free form writing in your experience? I could say more words, but that's basically my question.
That's interesting. It's the difference really is kind of the overall intention of the process. So you can have a similar effect. Oftentimes, when people go into spiritual exercises in the very beginning, whatever the incompletes of their subconscious or unconscious will start to surface and they'll start to bubble up and they'll start to have to be processed. And if you're chanting the names of God into your third eye center, usually there is a burning or a churning, and it starts to burn through the mental karmas and it starts to burn through those images. And it starts, so as you keep chanting through that, it starts to process and clear. So, in a sense, it's similar in that context to the effect you would get from freeform writing. But the purpose is not to burn and churn mental karmas. That is a benefit. The purpose is to connect to the sound current of God, the Word of God, and to enter into direct conscious awareness of your divinity and then your oneness with all, and then your non-existence and existence as that oneness solely. So, did you catch all that?
Partially, I really appreciate you laying out the roadmap there.
So, spiritual exercises is to give you conscious awareness and experience and to help you infuse your experience down here, even down into the basic self with that light of God so that it infuses your experience. And you'll start to have a reference point experientially when the illusion of this world comes forward and the temptation of this world comes forward. You know very directly and very immediately the taste of a sweeter ambrosia than what's offered to you in the world. So that's a benefit of spiritual exercises. We do not achieve salvation through spiritual exercises. We facilitate it, but it is achieved by the grace of God, by the grace of the Spirit that extends itself into conscious awareness and knowingness and remembrance through the mystical traveler consciousness. So, by way of the sound current, by way of the mystical traveler consciousness, we are given the ability to have experience, take darshan of, and worship directly an authentic manifestation of God, a more essential manifestation of God. And through that intentionality and that love and devotion and that intent, we start to anchor our reference point as a soul into the soul realm.
Okay.
And when we're capable of accepting that and receiving of that energy and let's say vibrating at that frequency or referencing from that, then it's through that process that we can break the cycle of transmigration because then the soul's reference point is outside of that cycle. Whereas if we take darshan of or worship a lower form, because we don't have access to the sound current, the mystical traveler, our consciousness will go wherever our intention is, or wherever we placed the energy of our focus. And the soul will reference to that level of experience and continue to cycle back through. The karma itself gets processed when we're initiated through the mystical traveler consciousness and goes under the dominion of that consciousness and can get churned and processed. We are given the gift of Simran and Dhyana and Bhajan. So repetition, contemplation of the form of the master, and Bhajan, listening to the sound current and connecting to the sound current. We are given that gift because it actually helps us anchor the experience into this conscious level. Because at the level of this conscious level, even if we had agreed to work with the mystical traveler, the conscious self and the basic self can still rebel against that process and choose out of it. Some of us studied with mystical travelers in the past, and through our willfulness or our wantfulness, chose out of that. And so we're back in again. Freeform writing is a tool by which you can access unprocessed or incomplete expressions within the consciousness, usually within the subconscious, but sometimes within the unconscious. The subconscious being a repository often of that which is preparing to be experienced in the consciousness through the basic self, through the Akashic records and things like that. It gets floated up.
Mm.
Okay. Or incomplete mental process that gets stored in the body or in the subconscious. Do you understand? When you do freeform
So,
writing, you can surface that and process it consciously and in a way that is less, you're less at the affect of it because you're processing it through a process of expression and conscious processing and releasing, and then you burn it.
yeah.
So you're completing the action without having to be at the affect of the action.
The affect, I'm sorry, what do you mean by that?
Being like a ping pong ball. You're not
Oh,
being ping
okay.
ponged around.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
consciously processing energy. Now, there is a point when you do freeform writing for an extended period of time. What will often happen is you will write and write and write, and then you'll get to a point where you start writing the same thing over and over. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. And then you stop writing, and usually there's like you're still trying to write, but nothing's coming out and it's silent. And past the silence, you can access a level that I would call the unconscious, which is connected to like a collective unconscious, the archetypal level, more fundamental human conscious level, and you can write in clear forms and things out of that that are affecting you. But again, the purpose of the clearing that occurs through doing Simran and doing repetition of the spiritual exercises is to help work or more consciously and intentionally dedicate every level, layer, and aspect of your being to the work that is being done between your soul and the mystical traveler. That initially, when you're going up through the initiations, is boring a little hole just the size of you through each of those levels so you can establish in each of the levels until you hit the soul realm. When you hit the soul realm, it may be to come back in and start to do a little bit more cleanup in partnership with the mystical traveler. Because after all, in order to complete the agreement, which is if you hold up your side of the bargain, it is the traveler assisting you in returning to the soul realm in this lifetime or shortly thereafter, because if you don't complete it while you're physically incarnate, you may quickly complete it with the assistance of the traveler after you drop the body, which can be a very accelerated process. But either way, actions originated on the lower levels do have to be completed. It's just they can be completed in a very accelerated process through the mystical traveler consciousness. Now, you asked again, what's the similarity? The similarity is one of the benefits of spiritual exercises is you can start to clear those levels, the same levels that freeform writing does. The purpose of freeform writing is to be able to have a more let's say, easier time down here, or to clear blocks, or to make it easier for you to have less noise in your consciousness, to listen to the high self who has your life plan, who guides the process, basically to clear noise,
Mm.
which can also correlate to clearing old hurts, which can also correlate to clearing patterns. It has a lot of benefits, but those benefits are mainly directed at the lower levels. The benefits of spiritual exercises are multidimensional and far-reaching in nature. They do touch on similar benefits, but that would be only a small portion of the benefits of spiritual exercises. It's in a way you could look at freeform writing as, well, let's put it like this. You've heard so the whole story of like people asked Michelangelo, how did you carve this beautiful statue of David? And he just said, I carved away everything that isn't David. Got it. So you could say that freeform writing is in that school of thought, chiseling away of that which is not you, or releasing that which is not you. I look at Simran and the repetition of the names of God and the actual listening to the sound current and fall and actually vibrating at that level because you reach a point where you go from repetition to you feel like you're being repeated and you don't know who's chanting, right? That's more like if there was a golden David trapped in the middle of the marble and you had a tuning fork at the resonant frequency of that gold and you started hitting the top of the tuning fork and just putting it into it so it was starting to vibrate the David in the middle violently. And that vibration starts to shake off things that are not compatible with what that vibration is. But you see the difference?
Yeah, it's like it's well, the way I'm seeing it is like one's kind of
They're both valuable. They're both helping you in some sense. They both result in you removing or letting go of that which is not truly you. One emanates from the very center of who you truly are as a reference point and vibrates that louder than who you're not. Whereas the other helps you release and express and vomit that which you're not. And there are some experiences like, for example, like we offer the peace awareness trainings. That's kind of both. You have both the experience of vibrating at the center and vomiting what you're not. And that's happening simultaneously. So that's kind of, in a sense, on this level, the best of all possible worlds. But the best of all possible worlds as a practice, the most high value practices you can have on this planet, apart from just taking care of your body, is just do your spiritual exercises and be of service. And you could say, if you can't be of service, give freely of your money and energy in the direction of unconditional service because money represents energy, time, expenditure, and giving freely of that is a similar proxy to the act of physically serving. But it's the same energy, which is I give this freely. I give that. This is not mine, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. This is not mine, and I give it freely to you, Lord. So unconditional service brings you into that surrender. And it does change, it does start to transform the lower self just by doing the service. Spiritual exercises starts to not really, it's not really a transformation process. It's more that more essential and accurate and true vibration of who you are starts to become louder than who you're not. And that which is incompatible with that frequency starts to fall away. So people doing spiritual exercises is a transformation from the inside out, where over time, if somebody's doing a lot of spiritual exercises, you just notice they're just going to change. It's not they're changing themselves. Behaviorally, they're changing, but actually they're simply their lower self or their psychic material self is starting to reflect more accurately their true self. That's what goes on
Mm.
because their reference point has shifted. Service is a transformation from the outside in, where service is the nature of God. Service is the abundance of God in manifestation. We start to act as if, or we start to reflect that frequency, and that frequency moves inward and starts to transform the conditions of the consciousness that are in resistance to that. So, in a sense, it's like training the lower self to be more compatible with the God consciousness coming forward. You can also serve from God consciousness or from that essential knowing, but that service doesn't feel like service. It's interesting. When you're doing service, yeah, you wouldn't even call it service because if you're just in submission to the God consciousness coming forward, you're not really thinking like, oh, I'm doing service right now. It's the same. If God said, go brush your teeth, you would have the same mentality as God says, go feed all these people. It's just, it makes no difference. You see? So it's not service in the sense, it's devotion. Everything becomes a devotional act to God. Like when I would talk about every moment of my life, my intention becomes this one's for you, John Roger. But that's because that's a reference to divinity inside of me. But you could say this one's for you, Krishna, or this one's for you, Buddha, or this one's for you, Jesus. It's the same mentality of like letting go of an ego-driven approach. But until we do let go of the ego-driven approach, even serving unconditionally from an ego position. Like, for example, if I went to go feed people at the Midnight Mission and I had a little bit of righteousness going, just the act of entering into unconditional service and the repetitive action of just give them their food, just give them their food, just love on them and give them their food would start to change the conditions of my consciousness, even if I came at it from an ego position. That's why we say the highest consciousness on the planet is service. And the highest form of service is selfless service. Selfless, meaning you don't even feel that you're serving, you feel God's serving, and you don't know the difference who's doing it. So, yeah, so it's kind of a yes and thank God we have both. But you can't do free form writing in support of your soul. It's like freeform writing won't get you soul awareness, but freeform writing might assist you in your pursuit of soul awareness in that it will make some of the voices and dynamics within you perhaps a little less intense. And therefore, in that quiet, you can focus more easily on soul awareness. The other thing is freeform writing, when done with the intention and consciousness of the Christ, can be a healing action where it completes it, it seals it, and it becomes loving. It's like it transmutes it into loving. Whereas, in a sense, without the Christ consciousness, freeform writing might just be if I did freeform writing from an ego position, I would just be cycling into the ego position. Whereas the Christ stands for a redemptive process. It's like being born new. You come at it with the intention of, I'm doing freeform writing because I'm going to be born new. I'm going to be born the one that doesn't have all that. I'm fresh now. That's no longer there. It's like it was never there in the first place.
I'm trying to understand that better. Like when you said doing freeform writing with the intention of the Christ, I kind of lit up and then a
Yeah,
medium
so
like
doing
started
freeform
to-
writing as let the fire of my loving burn everything to the ground.
Oh, I've heard you say that before.
Let my loving let my loving dissolve everything that expresses here, and then I burn it symbolically as part of that. That it's just a different approach. Like freeform writing's valuable, period. But for me, I've done that different forms of it. There's also a freeform writing that's I really want to write an angry letter to so and so, but I don't really have the chutzpah to go do that. So I'm just going to write an angry letter and then burn it. I don't know that because if you just, the whole value of freeform writing is you get beyond the mind. You've written so much that your mind runs out of juice and the mental karma hasn't surfaced quickly enough to fill that. And so then you start writing from the subconscious, and then you run out of juice with that, and then you start writing from the unconscious. And then eventually it's like usually you'll start to feel like you want to fall asleep or something like it's just done because it's just too the body can only handle so much release.
When you do have that happen, if you like just start getting really sleepy doing free form writing, do you try to keep going or do you say, okay, we'll stop? Or what do you do in that?
I follow my intuition.
Okay, gotcha.
And the cool thing is, in the state after you get to the point that I'm talking about, you will be astounded, even if you don't consider yourself an intuitive person, how easily and quickly you know what to do in any situation. Because all the crap that you've got in the way of getting the intuitive leads and signals and inspirations from your high self have just been cleared away. And then all of a sudden your high self can go, go there, go there, go there, do that, do that.
Mm.
That's
So,
really the goal.
so it can help with, let's say, communication with my high self from the reference point of my, oh, I'm sorry.
Communication. So most people communicate with their high self through prayer. They think they're communicating with God. And in the universal sense, they are. But in most cases, they're actually charging up spiritual energy into their high self and they're placing an intention. And if it's in alignment with the life path, the high self then issues a command or issues an energetic form into the basic self to release the condition or approve that action. So that's usually and then the communication from the high self will usually come in the form of inspiration or flashes. So it won't be conversational. You can dialogue with the basic self a lot easier. You can dialogue with the basic self, and in fact, it's very effective to kind of have a very nurturing maternal energy with it, because oftentimes its personality somehow gets patterned around a younger age in your life, like a child. So it's very effective to be almost maternal with it,
Mm.
depending on the basic self. Some basic selves need a spanking, they very rebellious. But oftentimes that maternal sweetness works really well and listening. The high self, it's usually more like in the Huna tradition, they talk about it almost like rain coming down. So it's little droplets of information and guidance, but it's not. And in fact, there are contexts in the movement of spiritual inner awareness where JR has guided people on how to interact with their high self, but it's real tricky. It's real tricky to have a conversation. It's very easy. I'm not going to say it's very easy. It's very straightforward to get intuitive leads from the high self. As soon as you clear out all the junk of who you think you are and what you think you know and all your agendas, and you get into a place where you're like this churning loving that dissolves thoughts as quickly as you see them. In the silence that you leave, you will in fact perceive the high self communicating, and it will be in the form of images, it'll be in the form of feelings or inspirations or joys or words, or just feeling the warmth guiding you, or like it's like when you say, Lord, what would you have me do? Or when you say like you want to feel the loving guiding you. That's kind of that to me, that's very much interaction with the high self. In terms of the basic self, or in terms of the soul, that's more experiential. You would have to do that more from a mystical experience, as in like a beingness. You pull the attention back from the extrusion into the conscious self, into the soulic individuation, and then that pulling that attention back into it, you're not actually moving anywhere or finding something. It's more like shifting the focus on a lens or something, or pulling the attention back so that you're no longer the lens, you're the one looking through the lens. And then you can go back further than that, which is why we do the process of Simran and Dhyana and Bhajan. You start to pull the attention back even further. But yeah.
Uh, what was the second word? Simran, Bajan. What was the one in the middle?
Oh, Dhyan.
Dion. Okay.
Yeah, it's contemplation. So like when
Okay.
you talk about um, bringing loving devotion into your spiritual exercises or bringing a quality, it's like you focus on the radiant form of the mystical traveler. You focus on whoever you reference as the mystical traveler, and the loving and devotion kind of pulls you into that experience. Um, More than anything, it would just be silence. So
Mm.
it's like in a mechanical sense, it was like you're chanting, you're chanting, you're chanting, and then you go quiet and you listen for the sound. For me, the contemplation is important, where I place my attention on that quality of loving or gratitude or whatever it may be that pulls me into the experience of the sound current. Always at the top of the third eye center.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm identifying that location. I mean, I've been around long enough. I feel like I should know, but it's like, is that the same as like the Tisra Till when we talk about the top of the third eye center?
Yeah.
Okay.
The third eye is central to it's not actually at the surface. The form of it is back
Yeah.
above the eyebrows, kind of, in the forehead.
Yeah.
And you kind of, at that center point, it would be near what is it, the pineal gland?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something somewhere around there, maybe.
Yeah.
Thanks for confirming. I think I have the right place from what you just said. So,
Well, I mean, I could give you the opportunity to work more of your mental karma by telling you didn't have it right and just leave it at
oh,
that. And then no.
thank you. I mean,
No, I
well,
don't.
God's will be done, I guess.
I think you're doing just fine. That's just me messing with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all this. I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of good literature on freeform writing and on. I just I'm just grateful we have all of it, you know. So
Yeah, I'd actually not been doing freeform writing much in the last while. I've been um, doing more SCs and focusing more on that. And it was like almost like I didn't want to do freeform writing. It's like so that's kind of where my question came from. I
yeah,
started.
I wouldn't relate to any of this stuff as a take your medicine. I
uh,
think that can trigger a lot of rebellion in the basic self often. And then you have to do like discipline, overcoming there's kind of this antagonistic relationship. So I often look at spiritual exercises as a privilege. Like I get to do spiritual exercises. Freeform writing, I think is it's really depends on the person. If the person has a lot of unconscious karma or karma with the unconscious level or the subconscious level, or they have a lot of noise, it may be very medicinal to them. For some people, they need to consciously let themselves cry at least once a week just to release that energy. I would encourage you to look at it as more like you have stewardship over this consciousness in the lower levels and what would be most helpful. I don't think there's a should on freeform writing. I think there's a if it's helpful. But as I said, you may be getting more value out of churning the mental karmas using the tone itself, which it can do. Or you may be cultivating a consciousness where you're not, a lot of your thoughts are getting resolved right then and there, and you're clearing them as you're thinking them. So they're not drifting into the subconscious. So then you don't have to process them later. Or you largely are not like there's less of those hidden dimensions that are building up and clogging up the works. So there's no need for you to do that. But again, I would say the mere fact that you have the chatter in your head about whether you should be doing freeform writing means you have more to clear because it's not a chatter thing. It's a what is the intuitive guidance showing me thing. And that doesn't require chatter, that just requires silence.
I like that. That sounds attractive to me. So thank you for talking with me, Jeffrey.
My pleasure.
God bless you.
All right, Christina.
Oh, thank you, Jeffrey, for calling on me. I'm a little nervous right now. So I'm asking for light and from you and light and support from the spiritual family.
Hmm.
What I'm going to try to articulate this as best as I can. What I've been experiencing is I would call it like a block where it's blocking receiving. And that could be spiritually through the upper levels. It could be on this level. It could be grace. It could be finances. It could be loving. It could be compassion. And what it also, I'm not sure if it's like a mental construct or a thought form of something from other lifetimes to be completed. I find that there's a lot of mental activity where my mind is racing, racing, racing. So even if, like, I'm doing SEs, focusing on being calm and doing my work through SEs, or breathing, or grounding. And uh, there's been a protectiveness that I've developed um, that I think is part of that. And part of it has to do with the living situation. So, um, and I do the walking in the light and do different parts of that frequently throughout the day too. So I'd really appreciate whatever information and any work you're willing to do with me. And maybe we can really break some of this and disconnect it and disengage it and clear it and whatever you have, I'd be very grateful to receive, Jeffrey. Thank you. And thank you for this prior sharing that you just did. It remarkable. Thank you.
Um, so for me, one of the big keys to opening up receiving is that it's connected to giving. And when we're in difficult situations, it's kind of a vicious cycle because what will happen is we'll feel like the world is unjust or we'll feel like things are very difficult for us, and that will reduce the amount that we want to be of service or give to others or to open up that energy. So we start to shut down the expression level and the openness, and that also shuts down the receiving level because the opening through which you give is the opening through which you receive. So in your particular case, I would look at any conditions you place, particularly on giving. And you could say, everything in the ego says, oh, but I was really polite to this person even though they were mean to me, or I was really, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a service mentality where it's like, even when the world seems unjust or unfair, or even when the world seems like it's not giving to you, you give more. And I'm not saying be unbalanced. It's there's a way in which service takes us outside of ourselves. Other people just tuning in, other people on this call who struggle with lack consciousness could also benefit from this, which is when I feel like I have oh my God, how am I going to pay the bill? Or I don't have enough, or I don't have whatever. Oftentimes I break that energy by going into an experience of serving or service. And if I can't physically serve, I will go into the universe of my consciousness and just start blessing everything, one thing at a time, every object, one thing at a time. And I'll even dialogue. It's like if I can't serve anything or anyone, I go to the room itself and I say, is there any color light that I could bathe this room in that would be of service to you, beloved? So it's bringing in that mentality of service. Oftentimes, the giving and receiving energy of this world is a continuum, and it's a continuous movement of energy. The challenge with people who are, so it's conditioning on both sides basically blocks it. So if I condition my receiving, people will say, "Oh, but I love serving, and yet I have this knee injury, and yet I have this illness, and I'm not able to go to the shelter and do the thing that I want to do." And then you discover it's because they put a condition on their receiving, and therefore it's blocked. They've reached capacity with their giving. I would say the key in both cases is to eliminate all conditionality on both, knowing that there is only God giving and only God receiving. Imbalance occurs at the level of the illusion of separation, and it occurs at the level of when am I going to get mine? And the truth is, you will never get yours, and yet you will always get yours in the form of karma. So it's like you're getting what is balanced. You're getting what is aligned. You're getting what is clear. You're getting what is love. It's not, it may not always look the way you want it to look, but it's the perfection of that balance. When am I going to get mine is a misunderstanding of the nature of abundance and the nature of God's giving on this planet, because God's giving and God's receiving are exactly the same thing. So when I say give unconditionally, I say I give only to spirit, I give only to the beloved, and I answer that call immediately and without hesitation. And am I worried? Well, the person didn't pay me. Well, it's always on a case by case basis, and it's always on the basis of what is energetically clear and what am I called to do. If I'm called to serve, I don't look at the bill, I don't look at anything like that. But then out of nowhere, somebody might send me money, or out of nowhere, an opportunity comes out of nowhere. It's not it's not that I'm doing service so that I can get the result. It's that I'm equally unconditional in following the intuitive lead, in being available to the will and the guidance of spirit. The other thing that is of a similar frequency to the free flow of giving and receiving is gratitude. So the degree to which we can be grateful, even for, it's like, well, I'm living in a tenement and I barely have enough food to eat. Okay, be grateful for the next breath. Be grateful that you're still sitting here. Be grateful that it's like you can always focus on something to be grateful for, not because gratitude is right and noble. I mean, everybody always does this like righteous spiritual crap. It's not about that. Gratitude is medicinal. It puts you in the frequency of God's abundance, which is a constant process of giving and receiving at all times, everywhere. Every breath that we take is given to us, and every breath that we take is received by us. It's a constant process, it's a constant dance, and there's nothing right or wrong, good or bad. It's just a question of preference. Do you want to participate at that level, or do you want to fight for your little hill that you're on, or your territory, your safety, your little piece of perceived control? And my battle has always been, or my inner struggle, inner my mountain to climb inside has always been continuing to let go of more conditions. And for me, it was for me, it was I can give, I can give, I can give, but I'm not okay with receiving. And I don't want to owe people, and I don't want, it just goes on and on and on. Or I'm okay with the concept of abundance, but money is dirty. So it's like I had to go buy gold coins and silver coins and hold them and trigger myself as much as possible and clear on that and just clear on that and clear on that until I was neutral and I just went, "Oh, God's giving, God's receiving, it's the same." It's like it becomes neutral. It has nothing to do with status. It is not inherently better or worse to have money or have resources or not have money or not resources. The purpose is really to learn the lessons you're here to learn and complete the karmas you're here to complete and to walk home to the heart of God. Just it's not really about anything other than walking joyfully through your karma. And at the same time, we are allowed to have preferences. That's one of the gifts of being a human. So we may have preferences like I'd like good food to eat, and I'd like a safe place to live, and I'd like all these things. And that's all well and good. And it may be karmically aligned and it may not be karmically aligned. The thing that is within our control on a conscious level is our attitude, which has everything to do with the barriers we place to the blessings that are already present. And it's an interesting game to play with yourself to know that every experience that you have is a prayer answered. You just don't remember putting out the prayer. And
Yeah.
another way to look at it is this experience is a blessing. I can't wait to discover how.
Yeah,
You've got some patterning in there about being taken advantage of, being lied to, all that kind of stuff. It's just in there. You're never going to be able to solve it by going back in and trying to convince yourself out of it or untangle. You can't untangle those Christmas lights. You're going to have to start fresh with a new strand. You start fresh with a new strand, not through a process of denial or suppression, but through a willingness to be the one that God made you divine in this moment and to not be the one who has the Christmas lights. You can love the one who has the Christmas lights. You can serve the one who has the Christmas lights. You can love on them over and over and over and let the dead bury the dead. You can be born the Christ right now. And how do you do that? Well, Jesus talks about repentance, but what that really means is shift the pattern, shift the behavior. Behave like an abundant, grateful person, and you will start to experience abundance and gratitude in your life. You don't have to be bound by the experiences you had, by the ways you were treated, or the things that you feel were unjustly done to you or taken from you, or any of those things. That, in many ways, is that individuated self fighting for itself in your consciousness. And the degree to which you enter into unconditional service may be the gateway for you to repattern that. Wait, you mean in this state of poverty, you expect me to go out and serve people?
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly
yeah,
what I'm saying. And it will repattern everything in your consciousness. And you'll wake up one day and go, I feel like the richest person on the planet. Wait a minute, you're living in a tenement. How can you? I don't know. I have everything I could ever want. Life is a blessing. And that, to me, that is the opportunity of the Christ. That, regardless of physical circumstance, you can walk as the beloved and you can be the joy of the Spirit in human expression. And then people will want to be around you just to be in the presence of that. You will be the prayer answered. You will be the walking prayer answered. Every room you enter will be lit up by that. And we all have that. We are all that We are all heirs to that kingdom of heaven. We all have that within us at any given moment when we choose it. And believe me, I'm saying this as somebody who can go pretty negative, especially when I don't get a good night's sleep. So it's a constant process of, am I choosing to be born the Lord right now? Or am I choosing to be the one who's defined by all the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that have defined my existence up until now?
Can I ask something?
Sure.
Thank you. My basic self, is that the repository of, I know it's through a lot of the levels, but of this self that feels like abused or taken advantage of or
Yeah. It's patterned into your
isolated.
subconscious. And in some cases, it's emotions that are blocked and stored in parts of your body and organ systems, and those can have effects on the functionality of those organs. So it's a self-perpetuating process because then you have physical challenges that are caused by the blocked energy of the ego positions and the upsets and the things that you had in the past. And then you have more upset because now your body doesn't work. And so it becomes worse and worse. And it's like this cycle. And the way to break the cycle is to be ruthlessly serving and loving. And you're not going to solve it through the mind. We already, I mean, come on. I think you've proved that one. You're not going
Yeah.
to solve it through the mind. You're not going to solve it through the emotions because the emotions are largely the product of thoughts, either now or in the past, right? And
Mhm.
often the product of conditions of the body where your nervous system gets activated. So you're definitely not
Yeah.
going to solve it there. You solve it at the level of your action, where you start to repattern your life as this life is God's gift to me. This life is God's gift to you. You see, it you just claim it and you live it. And it's not about ignoring or suppressing or disregarding the conditions of your consciousness. But when you're operating from this new you, this true self in manifestation, this experience of newness, when you're operating from that level, then you can come back into the parts of you that are traumatized and whatever, as the healer, not as the victim. You come in as the loving presence and the prayer answered to those parts of you. And you start to work with the energies and the light, and you can see it all healing. I have never seen a person truly be able to forgive and clear from the context of a victim story because the forgiveness is hijacked by the victim story and becomes a way of perpetuating the victim story. You have to come from outside. It's like Einstein is attributed with a statement that I'm not sure he actually said, but we can't solve a problem at the level at which it's created. I read what he actually wrote. It was kind of close to that. Anyway, can't solve a problem at the level at which it was created. In this sense, you can't solve a problem from within the story. You have to be the one that is transcendent of the story. You have so much patterning in the emotions in the body that you will default to the story.
Mm.
So you have to do a pattern interrupt and do the least expected thing and the most generous thing. And you just be ridiculously loving and joyful and just start to repattern that and then go back in and you can heal everything. It will start to release because you'll have enough separation to understand I am not those things. I am not the traumas. I'm not whatever happened in my family. I'm not whatever happened in my, it's like I'm this newness. I was born today. I'm not my genetics. I'm not my family lineage. I'm not the culture of my childhood. I'm not the words that were said to me. I'm not the agreements that were broken. You recognize what you're not, and you affirm who you truly are, which is the Christ within.
Oh, thank you. I'll keep doing the work and better and higher. Um, I'm very, very grateful to be working with you, and thank you for working with me. And I thank everybody here for holding and support. God bless you.
Thank you. All right, everyone. It is about that time. So, wishing you a beautiful rest of your weekend. God bless you. I love you. Peace be still. The blessings already are. And don't forget to tip your waitress. And there you go.